Today we will talk about a subject that is really close to me. We've just been talking about before we started the future of work. And we're also going to be talking about performance marketing, because actually somehow these two things are linked in today's conversation. And we have today with us here in Brighton, we have Nick, that's the founder of a business called Seed here in Brighton. So welcome to the show, Nick. I'm very excited about this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Because we have a shared love for a book called Corporate Rebels, and the ideas in here and the whole approach to changing the way future of work looks, how organizations look, and the contribution these organizations are doing in the work besides making a profit, because profit is needed to change the world. That's just the reality of the world we're in today. So talk to me a bit about, you have quite an exciting your journey, your background, and what led you to set up Seed and what kind of change you're trying to make here in the world.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I started Seed with my co-founder Robin 10 years ago. So we're just about to celebrate our 10th birthday. We're a Brighton-born and bred business. Both of us are local chaps. Had careers, or I had a very brief career prior to starting Seed 10 years ago. You wouldn't be able to tell by looking at me. But Robin joined me sort of fresh out of university. We knew each other before. And I'd worked in marketing, primarily in PR, for quite a few years, and had seen digital businesses, digital marketing agencies, essentially give this kind of like snake oil approach to how they spoke to their clients and worked with their clients. I also kind of felt this when I was working in PR agencies as well. You know, marketing was kind of fluffy back then. We didn't have as much measurability as you do now. And in many ways, I would say there's too much measurability now because it kind of stifles innovation and experimentation. That's another story. But back then, the clients we were working with, I just felt two things really that motivated me to start Seed. One was that digital agencies needed changing. Performance wasn't really talked about in the way that I thought it should be. The second was I really didn't like working in an organization that was very top down and kind of traditional in its management approach. I knew that I wasn't the only one that felt like that. I think if you've worked, and I don't know anything about your work history, but if you've ever worked in an organization that's kind of top heavy and hierarchical, everyone that's underneath managers will complain about their managers if they're not a good manager, right? So it stifles creativity, it stifles innovation. People just don't give, can I swear? Yeah, people don't give a shit if to want to come to work and actually deliver their best work, right? So that's where you get wage slaves. And that's also how you generate a really negative culture. And I just thought there's a better way to do it. And I didn't really know enough about it back then. I took a leap and I failed loads, as all the best kind of entrepreneurs do. And eventually, after just lots of work, I managed to start marketing for different brands, and I did it in a different way. Robin, my co-founder, joined me, and that was really when Seed was born and started. And it was founded on these really strong values, which we both shared, carried those through to now. Now we're a 40-person agency, been around 10 years, or celebrating 10 years, and we specialize in performance marketing for brands that want to just get more out of growth and want to work with a really growth-minded team.
Yeah, congratulations on the 10 years.
Thank you.
That's not every business that's do that. And we all know that just getting to 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years and then 10 years is like the decade.
Yes.
So I know all about one of the reasons why I'm very interested in the future work, because I actually believe the quality of the organization, of how being in that organization determines the impact that organization is going to do in a positive way on the world. So my background, we have never talked about it, but it's actually spent more than a decade with a very top-down organization that's very successful. They're doing called McDonald's, the example of Taylorism, the opposite of what Corporate Rebels talks about. And I believe there was a different way as well. And you could still use things from both worlds. I'm a very high believer on the system thinking. But there's something about also the way the world is changing, as we talked about prior to we started today. There is some really big movements in the world happening, and we actually need to change the way we approach everything. And that means work as well, because it's not working for many people. And the outcome of many businesses also failing. They might think it's not actually what I've learned. It's not always because you don't have product market fit. It's actually maybe because there was something other wrong. You build a great business, but it dies because the energy is not there. The positivity is not there to go out and make the change. People are, principle, not believing in their managers and the business, as you say, and then it dies by itself. And the death spiral, as they call it in the doom loop as well, in Good to Great. I think it's death spiral, doom loop, I can't remember, where they talk about these companies they've observed these companies over a decade, and they saw when they start failing was because they started taking the human bit out of the business and the dignity.
Yes.
And they went down.
But that, corporate and hierarchical traditional structures, they've worked for hundreds of years. And that's fine, because, we only can really look at what's worked and we iterate on that. But I see so many small businesses that we work with, so whether we're pitching to them or just advising them or through networking or agencies or whoever I speak to, and most of them are small to medium-sized businesses, they sort of copied this template of what has been done in the past or how they feel like the company should be structured. And it's so jarring. And I live in this tiny bubble called Seed, and that's amazing, right? But it's so jarring when I speak to, in my role, I do lots of business development and ultimately sales. So it's very jarring when I see brands, businesses, organizations that run in a totally opposite way to us. It's always felt really natural for us to be more progressive and to take this progressive line. And I think because of how we started, if I can go back to school, I was kind of naughty or deemed as naughty at school, not because I was doing anything particularly wanting to do things wrong, but I just really didn't like the top-down hierarchy authority of school. And I went to a quite strict school, so it was kind of, exaggerated. But I always got into trouble because I wanted to do things in a way that I thought was good, or better, or at least just question, why are we doing it like this?
Yeah.
This is, or just, and also, as you can tell, I love to have a chat. So I got in trouble for that.
You talk too much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God. But it's good because I got into sales and a founder of a marketing agency. So it's kind of the right thing for me. And now I'm doing podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just, it was always so jarring working in particularly in marketing, right? And these are creative industries, and all creativity just felt like it was being stifled out of people. And in terms of progression through companies as well, you start your career as an executive and you're a sponge at that point, right? You need to learn everything. That's the advice that anyone gives you when you start work, is just go and learn everything and do as much as you can, and you'll eventually find your groove and your specialism. Except the structure doesn't allow for that to happen, because you come in, you do a role, you get given work to do, fine, that's good, you need to learn. But then your progression is written down on a piece of paper. It's predetermined for you, and it's what the business needs you to do in its current structure in order for you to be successful and rise up the ranks. Why is that the case? Why don't you start your career by coming in as a sponge? It's like a kid in a candy shop going oh my God, all this amazing, great stuff that I can do. And I don't even know what my what my interests and passions are right now, because I've never done it before. And I just don't understand why we approach work backwards. Why do we start with a predefined version of what someone's career is before they've had a chance to figure it out for themselves?
I think that's a really interesting observation. That's also why there's a lot of people, we talked a bit about before we started, that there's a lot of leaders complaining about either people coming in to the workforce or the demands they put them on as a leader. And I think, we forgot that leaders eat last as well. And, we are in service to them because they are running the business. Our quality of service to them determines the business outcome. That's definitely my belief in leadership. So before we go into the future, where I would like to, because you couldn't do what you're doing with 40 people if you didn't have a big problem you were solving.
Yes.
Really well. So what is the business element of this? Because I know you're very focusing on profit is the means, and we need to make that, and we need to be the best in class. So what is the typical problems you go out and solve for for your clients, and where is the connection to hospitality maybe?
Yeah, okay. So we exist to help brands improve their performance marketing. Beyond that, we help them grow sustainably. So the word sustainability is really key. So often people will associate sustainability with working with brands that are doing quote unquote good in the world.
Yeah.
And that's part of the puzzle. And actually, we'll come on to talking about B Corp later. But for me, one of the biggest misinterpretations of the word sustainability is that it doesn't include and factor in financial capital as part of sustainability, but then also the social and human elements of sustainability. So for us, there's this quadrant of the brands that we want to help, the businesses we want to help grow. I've talked to you before about our red list and our green list.
Yeah.
On the face of it, you could have a brand that's like amazing, sustainable green business, right? But actually they might fall into our red list because they treat their team really badly or they're just really awful to work with. So it's just not as simple as just looking at a business and going, we want to help businesses that are doing good in the world, because ultimately we're a marketing company, we're in a capitalist system. It's really hard to authentically stand up and say, we're going to do more good in the world and only work with good brands, because when you actually look into it and you look at the businesses that are doing good, they are flawed as well. So authentically,
I guess that they're also on the journey maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
To become unflawed, but they know they need to take the right steps to sustain the business.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of deviating away from your question and I will come back and answer it directly.
Yeah.
But when we select the kind of clients we want to work with, we have to look at all different facets of what their business model is, whether we think it's going to be successful. We don't want to work with brands that we really don't think we can help, because that's part of my belief is that the marketing agency model is broken. It only serves agencies. It doesn't serve their clients. Agencies will get paid regardless of the impact that they create, right? They charge retainers. These are really big, chunky retainers that eat up marketing budget. Yes, you can get rid of your agency quickly. Normally, you have a notice period. A lot of agencies will have these annual contracts that brands get tied into.
Yeah.
And there's, sure, you can put in like performance metrics, KPIs, and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, agency comes in, they wow you with this amazing pitch. They sometimes wheel the founder out and go, look how amazing we are. And then first 2 months are really good. They onboard, and then they go into this just do enough mode where they just keep it cooking, simmering along, right? There's no opportunity or there's no pressure after that to just really, really go for growth over and over and over and over again. So we wanted to run a business where we were completely aligned with our clients' goals for growth. And often we were we were the ones pushing for growth. That's what we wanted to be. So we've got this model, which we call performance models. Essentially, they are you pay us based on the value we deliver, not on the time that we work. Because time is finite, right? And there's only so many hours in a day, in a month, in a work week, etc. And also, agencies burn their teams out because they pile hours on, they give them more clients, and they say, do what you were doing last year, but twice as fast. And that's how we make more profit from you. And I just think that's rubbish. Like, that stops creativity. It creates burnout. That's really bad for the team. It's bad for the client. It's bad for everyone. So we thought there's a better way to do this. And we haven't got all the answers. But what we're doing at our scale and what we're looking to do more of is these performance partnerships where we can truly align with our clients in growth incentives, build ourselves into their business models so that we understand the financial sustainability that they need to grow, but then also push them in a more sustainable direction overall. So that includes, authentically going after more green incentives and not greenwashing, but also not making that the sole purpose for your existence, because it's just not enough. Like, consumers care about businesses that do green stuff, but that's not why they buy from them, right? There are so many factors.
The product has to be good first.
And your reason for being has to be greater than that, because every brand in the world can pivot to doing more, can pivot towards sustainability. But that if that's what your business completely relies on, and that's why you're there, unless it's, very innovative.
Yeah.
Like any brand can just do that tomorrow, right? It's when green, for example, like green packaging, when like sustainable packaging came in, that used to be a USP 5-6 years ago. Now it's just an expected thing.
It's
and that's
standard,
and that's the great thing about like progress, right? We're progressing in a really positive direction. The world generally is becoming more sustainable, or businesses, but it's not a USP anymore, and that's a good thing. But that's also something that we try and help our clients work towards, and it's a big, long journey and a process. But yeah,
but with that approach on, so what is then the mission of Seed? Because you've been in business for 10 years. That's you've shown longevity now.
Yeah.
So I guess you're now starting as founders, and I know you're doing that, thinking about how does it look in 10, 20, 30 years, because you build a business you want to be in more than a business just for profit, but because the things goes hand, it has to make results for you able to be in it. But what is you thinking about the future and the mission Seed have in that?
Yeah, I always struggled with coming up with an authentic mission for a marketing agency, mainly because marketing agencies are just steeped in capitalism, right? Like we help our clients sell more stuff. So it was quite difficult for a long time coming up with this really profound, inspiring and authentic mission. So instead of doing that, we have internal missions and we have external missions. I pluralized it because we have a few. So at the moment, we're going through an EMI EOT transition internally at Seed, which means that,
No, that was my question. What is that? Yeah.
Okay, so EMI is essentially we reward our team with shares over a period of time. And then EOT is when we transition to an employee's ownership trust. So essentially, so we've set 5 years as our transition deadline. In 5 years, myself and my co-founder Robin will sell 51% of our shares to the company, and then there's a trust created which is owned by the employees, and that trust will exist probably forever, or until they decide to sell that parts of their shares. But ultimately, we're selling a company to itself so that it will be owned by the employees, and Robin and I will dilute to under 50%.
So you lose control.
Lose control. Yeah. So that felt very natural for us. So internally, we're all focused on the next 5 years by doing this transition. We're doing an EMI scheme to start with so that we kind of get people, 2 reasons really. So the more shares people own but by the EOT stage means the bigger their payout is. So we want everyone to win at that point, not just the 2 shareholders. Everyone then becomes a shareholder in some way. It's quite an unusual way to do it because it's quite heavily favoured in rewarding employees. But I think that's a good thing, right? I don't understand why more businesses don't do that.
I guess the retention it gives, because then suddenly there's a carrot out in the future that is very tangible.
And whether I think retention's a good thing. I also think having freshness is a good thing. So I realized recently that I'm such a centralist, which you might think if someone is sitting on the fence. I have really strong opinions about everything, but I also try and see it from both sides, and I kind of do this sort of reasoning of both. But yeah, I think retention and freshness is a good thing. But the main reason is it just motivates everyone to a very, very North Star metric, which is we need to make our company as valuable as possible within the next 5 years. We're all working towards that. And I use this analogy in work with people when I'm talking about it. And it kind of like really helps solidify the sort of evolution of our next phase of culture, which is there's a ship that's leaving port and we're all getting on that ship, right? And we're going to spend a long time on that ship together. So we've got to make sure that everyone that's on that ship really, really wants to get to the destination. And if you don't, then that's really fine. We're totally happy with that. Also, within the next 5 years, life happens, things change. People can get off that ship too. So it's it's just really important now for us, where we take a look around all the people that are in the company and go, are we all on this mission together? Yes. Okay, cool. If we're not, that's also fine. But the people that are going to push the hardest are the ones that are going to get rewarded the most.
I love the way where you turn it around and actually look at the valuation of the business, because everybody can contribute to that. So it's not like focusing on EBITDA, but actually the valuation of the business at that point.
Yeah.
It makes it very tangible, and I guess you measure that in some kind of way and give it some kind of value as you go through the quarters or whatever you do. But actually, a lot of people misunderstand that, the value of a business, it's better to own 1% of something very big than 100% of nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have that conversation often with people I'm involved in business with, and actually it's not about if you own 50% or not, it's actually the people you're owning it together with. That's more important. And that's also what you're saying indirectly. And I agree with you. It's such an obvious way of building very strong foundation into your business, because you've proven the business model, the employees know it, they can see you have success. So what is the loss for them? There's only a win. And actually, thereby you sustain the culture, I guess, as well. And that's really what drives you deeply
it
and
totally
what
is.
makes you different.
And so then beyond that, the external mission is we want to give our clients the most entrepreneurial, growth-minded team they'll ever work with in marketing. And I don't think that agencies can do that unless teams feel like they have skin in the game in some way. We are all human beings. We are all motivated by very different things, but ultimately, as you called it, the carrot, like we all need something to motivate us, right? And in most cases, it's a pay rise or a promotion. In most organizations, those are the carrots that get you to the next phase. But that doesn't really translate into day-to-day activity, right? I don't know what other agencies are like, because I've not worked in one, but it doesn't sound like I would be motivated working in one. It would sound like I'd be motivated working in one 3 months of the year, up to my annual review, and I would do just enough to get by. But if I was told, hey, you know what? You can earn as much as you like if you perform extremely well, and you are plugged into these amazing clients that trust you to deliver growth for them, and if you do really, really well, you'll get even more pay or more benefit or more whatever it is. I would just go at it, ham and fist. I would just go crazy. And we've got to be careful of not overdoing it. But like that for me, I want to surround, I think everyone given the opportunity in business can do that. Maybe that's a bit, maybe I'm thinking too high, but I think that's a really, why not try it, right? That's my approach.
There's actually one of the companies I've observed, and actually before I read it in Corporate Rebels, called Singerman's in the US, which is a restaurant group with 18 different businesses. And they are in principle structured the same way, where the founders now is in this transition as well. A bit later than they wanted to. They didn't really understand. So they are creating a trust as well, called Employee and Ownership Trust, and actually transitioning out because they don't want to be sold to Amazon. Because one of their biggest business areas, I understand, is an online food delicatessen business, say, where they deliver across the US. That's really the epicenter. All the other businesses are great businesses. And the reason why they're great businesses is because they're focused on the employee as business people instead of employees.
Yes.
So we are not telling them what to do. We are training them to become business people.
Perfect. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I don't know enough about the hospitality industry and in a sort of work perspective. I know hospitality through the clients we work with. So we have 5 or 6 hospitality clients. 3 are national, 2 are more regional, local based brands.
Can you share who they are? There's probably in the audience to say who are your customers?
The two, I can mention a couple of them. So we work with Honest Burger.
People would know
brand.
them.
Yeah, and we work with Giggling Squid as well. And then locally, can I do a local shout out?
Yeah, of course you can.
So we work with a really successful local brunchy cafe called Earth in Hove, run by my business partner's wife, Amber Stirk. So enough about them. That's a plug. We'll go back to so Honest and Giggling Squid. So we work with them in their performance marketing team. They have an internal marketing team who have a massive job internally. They're a very big organization in terms of their reach. They have lots of brand reputation and they have really, really big targets, right?
Yeah.
But being in hospitality, because it's feet on the ground, digital is a really difficult thing to measure. So we help them not just with measurement, but also bringing in all the latest and greatest stuff that we can see works with our other clients that are generating similar or have similar goals, increasing footfall, increasing revenue per location. There's lots of interesting experiments and things that we do with them to help measure what impact digital has on the physical world, which I think is really cool.
So it's helping them think differently in principle about marketing, which is really needed in an industry that, are struggling in the moment, and every centimeter has always counted, but counts even more now, millimeters, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same is true for digital or performance marketing spend. Yeah. We see very regularly, budgets are determined based on how you measure something. And this is a real, it's not controversial or a hot take, but I've been talking about it for ages. And it's this idea that perfect measurement exists in digital. 10 years ago when I started, it was so difficult to measure impact. And it was one of the reasons why I was so interested in performance marketing. It's just like, you can spend £1 and you can measure the impact of that pound. Well, now you can still do that, and we've almost gone too far in some cases. FDs in businesses are there to scrutinize budgets. Yeah. And I love FDs. I love the role they play. But marketing people, and particularly me, we battle with FDs all the time because we're like, no, we need that extra 100K because that's going to generate so much awareness and that's going to really help fill up the top of the funnel, marketing chat there, we can then generate more conversions towards the bottom of the funnel. Otherwise, we're just going to plateau and it's going to become more and more expensive to acquire new customers. And FDs, they get it, right? But they want to see perfect measurement. So perfect measurement just doesn't exist in every aspect of marketing.
Or in life.
Yeah. So if you go after perfect measurement constantly, and that's what you build it's a dream for FDs, right? Yeah. They look at perfect measurement, they go, fantastic, spent £1 million, got 10 mil back. That's amazing. 1,000% ROI. Love that. Do that again next year.
Yeah.
And then, something changes, or actually we're plateauing, or there's more competition in the market. And this is true of hospitality, right? It's so competitive. Same with travel, so competitive. You have to really be able to say, for every pound we're spending, we're getting £10 or £5 back, whatever. But as soon as you go outside of what's perfect measurement, you lose any form of creativity, any form of experimentation. It just becomes optimization at that point. And if you're constantly focusing on optimization, that's where you start to lose market share, because your competitors, the best brands that grow quickly, they aren't just obsessed with perfect measurement. They actually look beyond, okay, we know that this is our performance marketing budget. Now let's use some budget for prospecting or awareness or brand building. And that's where you can start to experiment and get creative. Those are the brands I think over the next 5 years that we're going to see that are going to really be generating much more growth than those that sort of focus on optimization. And it comes at different stages of a brand's life cycle. Yeah. But yeah, we're more interested in having a more sort of mature conversation around measurement. I just think that's what it's needed right now.
So the type of businesses you work with, do they need to be at a certain stage of the life cycle of a business really to benefit for working with performance marketing?
Yes and no. Mm-hmm. So we work best with brands that are probably generating over $1 million a year in revenue, depending on. So we don't have a specific sector we work in. We like to be sector agnostic because we just find business interesting. If we think that we can help them grow, that's the sort of first question we ask. Then we'll work with them.
So they have product market fit in some kind of thing. So,
exactly. Yeah. Product market fit, and then value alignment with us. Yeah. There has to also be like a buy-in. They have to be ready to grow. We've worked with loads of brands in the past where we've worked with them in like a partnership deal. So, there's some form of there's an element of commission, there's an element of fee that we have. So our incentive is to go big, right? We will win. We'll get our payback when they're growing fast. and they haven't been able to keep up with how fast we can grow them. So, you can't really predict those ones because everyone says, I can grow fast. But we've learned a lot around operations.
But there's some
as well. experience,
understanding, are they able to put the operation behind fast enough?
Yeah, we're wiser to it now. Yeah. Like we can sort of scout out those. But that shouldn't stop us from working with clients. We just need to know it up front so that we can manage expectations and also the growth. We work with quite a range, not sector specific, but I would say $1 million and over is sort of our sweet spot. Any brand that's generating under $1 million, we'll work with them. They might have funding, it might be a startup, they might have an idea, or they might just want to work with us, and we work with them on a very sort of generous commission deal where they would get essentially a team that would help them drive to their first $1 million turnover, whilst also looking at profitability, operations, and scaling their marketing to be sustainable in the business. I've given a very wishy-washy answer, but we'll work with anyone that we feel is right for us, and we can help.
There's more than one thing that comes in here. I can hear. You're B Corp.
Yes, we are. Yes,
B Corp.
Third year. I think we're now. I think we've got to redo it soon. B Corp just felt like the right fit for us when we found B Corp. We actually took it a bit too seriously when we first started. And what I mean by that is we I think it was around 2018 we first were aware of B Corp, or at least heard about it. And then got the application and didn't do anything for 3 years. We had a pandemic in between. So, we could give a bit of grace there. But we just didn't feel like we were ready and set up and didn't authentically feel like we were or could call ourselves a B Corp. Since then, so we did our B Corp. It took us a long time to structure the business, and we wanted to just score. Robin and I are naturally very competitive. We compete with each other all the time, sometimes healthily, sometimes not healthily. But we wanted to score as highly as possible. That was the first thing. We wanted to make it authentic as well. And we wanted our team to be involved. So it wasn't just a badge that we could sort of put on our website and say, we're B Corp. I really don't like that. I think my hope is that B Corp kind of like tighten things up a bit more in their process and how they score the brands they work, the brands that get certified. I've heard that they are doing that, which is good.
I heard the same, yeah.
Yeah. There was a few, I'm not going to say names because it's shameful, but there are a few, companies that started work that they had got their B Corp and then started working with oil-based businesses, which part of the B Corp certification is a straight no. Yeah. So they then had their B Corp stripped, but it took them 9 months and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's the impact of B Corp has been great. For us, it made us learn a lot about how to be sustainable, not just from an environmental perspective, but from a human, financial capital as well, and society-based perspective. That's good. And I'm glad that other businesses have done that. Whether that was for the right reason or not, I feel like B Corp's achieved its goal of making businesses better.
It's raising the standards.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that. And I'm proud that we're B Corp. It's not the thing that I walk into a room and shout about because I don't know, find that cringe. But I think it's a really great thing that exists, and I'd love to see them push it to the next level.
I think it's quite interesting. You also saying in between the lines, I can hear like lots of said here on the show. There is around B Corps. There's an episode coming out here on Thursday with Celia Gase from the Wellbeing Farm, where she said he actually used it just to make her business better. That was the first criteria. Is my business going to get better? Yeah. Next criteria, is it going to make more impact? Yes. And he was already doing a lot of stuff without having the B Corp. But then she thought there was a way to get the team involved in this rigor process, like you were going for any other certification. So I think that's really how you should look at it. You should have to be ready to use it, or else it just becomes a project and it dies, because you need to keep it alive after there, and you have to redo it after 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah. The best thing it gave us was we now do an impact report annually. So we're measuring more, which is really good. As soon as you start measuring stuff, you become more aware of it. Yeah. So that's a real positive. And also our team are proud, and I'm proud. I might not sound it. I might sound skeptical, but I am proud, and I'm proud that our team are proud, and I'm proud that we can work with businesses that feel and think similarly. I think that's a good thing. I'd like them to keep pushing it. My mind is always geared to being progressive. Just think like, what's the next thing we can do?
Yeah.
I'd like them to really do that, and not make it super difficult for everyone that's put the effort in, but just keep raising the standards. Yeah. I just don't think we can stop where we are.
I think what I've heard as well, people want, there has to be a consequence if you break the community rules, as you just said. And I think you have to go quite fast.
Yes.
Because then or else people are going to start having questions about this. Is this, I can actually trust what's on this bottle of drink I'm buying here? Are they actually good?
Exactly.
Or they're not? Because I've heard something in the news about them.
Exactly. I mean, as soon as trust is it's the most difficult currency, right? So it's so hard to acquire. They've acquired it, and it's an amazing thing that people will look and see that logo on some food or any packaging or on a company's website and go, great, I know and I'm assured that this brand takes sustainability seriously. They treat their team well, and they're just a good business, right? So that's lovely.
Yeah.
But as soon as that is broken, that trust is so hard to win it back. And then you don't, like, the worst case scenario would be, oh right, so it only applies for some and not others. And now what brands can I trust? And da 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 da. So yeah, I'm really glad that they are moving forwards and they take this. They've taken that consequence seriously. I want to see them just push it even further.
Yeah.
Like let's go.
But I think you will with the right business like yourself behind.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about
the Bible.
The Bible. You call it the Bible. Corporate rebels.
I don't actually call it the Bible.
Pimp and Josh will be very happy to hear this. So what made you fall in love with the corporate rebel approach? So just to give people a bit of an insight what we're talking about here, it's approach from what the best of the best companies. They visit 190 companies around the world, and they were like focusing on, we'd already talked about some of this, from profit to purpose and values, from a hierarchical pyramids, we talked about that, to network of teams, we talked about directive leadership, you talked about that, to supported leadership, we start predict and plan, to adapt and push the boundaries, from rules and control to trust, we just touch trust in a different way, centralized authority to distribute authority, and from secrecy to radical transparency. And talking about the employee trust you talked about, and from job description to talent and mastery. You talked about young people coming in and forcing them into a box and not really using their potential or asking the right question. So how are you using these ideas in this book? They're very powerful ideas. They are very sensible ideas. Like, why wouldn't you? The whole world have changed. We talked about from Taylorism to a new world. How are you using them in your business to build that kind of organization that actually can sustain decade after decade? Because that's in principle what the work is about, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I mean, I could talk about this probably for 5 or 6 days. So I'm going to condense it into as short as I can. But I was introduced to Corporate Rebels by my business coach. His name is Cy Conroy, and he is quite a radical, progressive business coach. He's amazing for like just pushing and questioning and reminding me of my original mission, and the reason for why I started Seed, and he holds me accountable to doing that. So he introduced us to this book about 7 years ago, maybe. I think it came out 7 years ago. Anyway, whenever it came out.
I think it's around that. I'll check while you talk.
Yeah. And I loved it. I just fell in love with how easy it was. So like the concept of going out and interviewing their bucket list of companies that they wanted to find the most progressively run companies in the world. So, if you told me or anyone that was wanting to start a progressively run organization, here's a book that's done all of that reading, and here are the most progressively run companies in the world, and there's case studies, and they've condensed it down into trends. I just thought, oh, this is magic dust. This is exactly what I need. So without sounding too evangelical about it, I loved it, and it gave us the blueprint, or at least it gave me the sort of code for the DNA that I wanted to create Seed
And
with.
the language, I guess.
The language
for the team, yeah.
Totally. And some of the things in there at the start felt kind of radical, right? And now, and I don't mean this in a cocky way, but I kind of feel like I'm looking forward to Corporate Rebels too, because I feel like we as an organisation have actually taken these principles and pushed them harder and faster. Give them credit, 6-7 years ago. So
2019.
19. Yeah. Okay, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But even the irony of writing this book about sort of making work more progressive, and then having a pandemic the next year where working from home became like the norm. Yeah. But I'd like to see the next version of it, and I'd love for Seed to be on one of the case studies. Right, that would be amazing. But yeah, for us, I think the biggest things that stuck was we never had line managers. We don't have line managers in Seed. I don't like traditional line management, and I don't like traditional hierarchy. I just think it prevents people from growing. It prevents people from being accountable. It prevents people from mastery of skills. I think we talked about that at the beginning. Being pigeonholed into a role and then having your career defined for you. And obviously you can pivot and you can take risks and you can, say, I want to do this and I want to go and do that. And that comes maybe in the right organization, you're enabled to do that. I just think that all businesses should allow people with good framework. You still need accountability. We still have coaching. We still have mentoring. That's part of what we would replace management with. And it's really hard and it's messy at times because humans are messy.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I go, oh my God, why are we doing this? Why are we making it so much more difficult for ourselves? Except it isn't more difficult. It's actually better. And I'm really happy and proud that we're a testament to that. We're a medium-ish sized organization in terms of headcount. We punch way above our weight in terms of what we do with revenue and our net margin and everything like that. The way that we run our org is amazing. But it's taken us such a long time to transition from how we expect companies to be run.
Also because employees comes in and they have been governed under that paradigm.
They've been radicalized by the corporate world. Yeah. So we've got to deprogram people and go, you know what? It doesn't have to be like that. There's a better way, and it's going to take you time to adjust. But ultimately, you're going to be in control of your career. You're going to be in control of and accountable to what you deliver in terms of value. We want you to come to us, and when I say us, I mean anyone in the business, and say, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is what I'm best at. And it won't always, that's not. We're not giving everyone carte blanche and freedom just to say, I want to do painting and sell my, it's got to be commercially viable. So there's lots of frameworks and guidance in place. But ultimately, we don't want to work with people in our organization that need to be told or want to be managed directly. I just think most people don't, there's a reason why so many people leave to start their own thing.
Yeah.
Or there's a reason why people go and do contracting or freelancing. It's because it gives you equal benefit of having freedom, control, accountability, the ability to do what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. But it's lonely work and it's hard and you have to do it all on your own, and not everyone wants to do that. We like to be in communities.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to blend both
worlds.
Yeah.
But I think also lots of people, no matter, lots of people say there's a new generation wants something different.
Absolutely.
I believe that is definitely a driver, but I always believed that people wanted to be in a place where these things were. And lots of people don't like to be a manager. They become a manager because of the salary.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. They don't like the people element. Very few leaders in an organization do, or especially when you work with them on the executive level, you'll find out, the CFO don't like people, not because they're bad people per se. Some do. I'm radicalizing this bit, but they actually like to solve the complex matter in the spreadsheet or the business model issue. That's what they like, and they like to get paid for that because it's super valuable. That's why they're paid, not to manage a big team. That's not why they pursued this craft in a way. And I think we forget that sometimes.
It's mad. You reminded me when you talk about becoming a manager, right? People are motivated to become managers because of the salary, not because they want to be autocratic dictators and tell people what to do. Actually, being a manager often is probably one of the worst jobs you can do. It's so stressful, and you're accountable for other people to do their jobs, right? That's rubbish. That's such a rubbish deal.
Yeah.
What's mad to me is that organizations train people in specific skills and delivery to get to the point of management, and then they just discount all of that. And yeah, you have to have management training, and you eventually become acclimatized to being a manager, and then that's when people leave and go and start their own thing, go and start like a brewery or something.
Yeah.
But you take away, the first quarter of their career, which they've spent learning, developing, honing skills and passions, to then become a manager of people. And I just think, why is that happening? Why is that the thing that people are all striving towards in most organizations? And also, they're the first people to get cut when budgets get tightened. So awful. What an awful place to be.
Yeah, it's a very stressful place to be.
Yeah.
What is the one advice you would give other business people that want to make a business as a force for good?
As a force for good?
Yeah.
Authentic. It sounds pretty wishy-washy, but genuinely don't do it because it's going to win you customers, or you think it's going to, retain team, or because other businesses are doing it. Not being a force for good isn't like, not every business has to be a force for good. And I think defining what force for good means in your business is really important.
Very good one. Yeah.
So in our example, I said originally, like we're a marketing agency, right? And I think marketing is a capitalist construction. Okay, to be a force for good, yes, you could say we'll only work with companies that are protecting the planet or something like that, and that's amazing. But not every marketing agency can do that.
No.
So how do you then how do I pivot my business to being a force for good? Well, we can work with really good businesses, so that's tick. We do that, but we also want to make sure that we're treating our team in a way that means that they're empowered and that they love coming to work, and that actually all of that engagement can be translated into value for anyone that we work with. Yeah. So I would say being authentic. It took me a while to work it out. And not just going after like the obvious thing of, we'll change our packaging to being sustainable.
Yeah.
That isn't being a force for good. That's sort of, ticking
standard business
processes.
Yeah.
It does take time as well. I think sometimes the best businesses start by having a problem that's been identified by someone that's gone, I know how to fix that, or at least I think I know how to fix that. It naturally will. I think human beings naturally skew towards being good. So I think it naturally will be, this is actually going to help people. If it genuinely helps people, then that's the thing that you need to talk about and shout about. That's your reason for being, or Simon Sinek's why, right? Yeah. That's why you exist. I think often there's too much noise around what being good is.
Yeah. And I guess what you're saying as well, what I've heard others say as well, is about the environment you create, what you call an authentic environment, a good environment, or whatever it is, how you treat each other as a team. That's where it starts.
Absolutely.
What is the one question you wished I've asked you, Nick, that I didn't ask you? And what would it be, and what would you answer?
I think it's around, we talked about this earlier, but it's around the future of work is I'm fascinated in. And as a founder, a founder of a 10-year-old business, I feel like the future of work now is rapidly developing. And whether that's through AI or the next generation of workforce, as I said, I'm 35 now. So I've got if I'm 30 years left of like full on active career. I don't think I'll ever retire, but I've got 30 years of full on active career at least. And I'm really interested to think about what the world is going to be like in 30 years, because in the last 5 years, it's radically changed. The new workforce coming in, and, in Seed, we skew kind of younger because we work with, we do a lot of apprenticeship schemes. So we love getting people into work who are from not university necessarily backgrounds, because that kind of skews more towards having a higher, what's the right word? I'm trying to think of a diplomatic word.
Corporate career?
Well, no, just a wealthier background, basically, with more opportunities.
Yeah.
So we like to do that so that we can get locally people in the industry, train them up. And then
give people opportunities that normally wouldn't get them.
Correct,
because of the barriers.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's sort of rooted in our belief that, you don't need to have a degree to be creative or good at marketing. So yeah, that's why we do that. But yeah, what I'm interested in is how is work changing, and the next generation of workers and the current generation of people that are entering the workforce in a really turbulent time. There's AI now with a constant threat from media and leaders on business in like LinkedIn, for example, all saying you need to be using AI. Mark Zuckerberg said, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, he said that, what was it? Mid-level engineers are now going to be replaced by AI in Meta. And then fired hundreds of people. So it's kind of turbulent and it's kind of scary. Why would I be motivated if I was joining the workforce now? This generation have seen their parents have these contracts with their employers. And I don't mean literally a contract. I mean like a social contract where they've been worked to the bone for 30, 40, 50 years. And then it's like, thank you very much. We'll go to the pub, celebrate your retirement, and you're off. And you get a retirement fund and all of that, pension. But what do you have to show for it? What have you got out of that career? People have had great careers, I'm sure. But I just think that this next generation are looking at that and going, I don't want that deal.
They want the whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
All aspects of life.
Yeah, life is like, if we're being told, and I say we because I'm also a human being, but if we're being told that the work's changing, productivity is going to skyrocket with AI, there are going to be less jobs, although jobs will just change and we'll need new skills to emerge and develop. Schools can't keep up with it, right? Universities certainly can't keep up with it. So where are these skills going to be learned? And I genuinely think that it has to be through business and organizations where, and in all facets, right? Like hospitality industry, how are they using AI? And how is that then being trained or used to people on the ground, right? There are so many applications that technology, AI, can be used for in hospitality, in venues, in locations, or in marketing or wherever. Yeah. How is that being utilized? And who's going to train that? And who's going to, take the risk of training the next generation into doing that?
There's a bit of a shout out here to founders, business owners, to start thinking about how we're actually going to make the future work better for everyone. Thank you so much for coming, Nick, and joining the show and sharing your story, the incredible work you're doing at Seed, and your approach to organization, and also how you work with your clients. Where could people find you or connect with Seed if they want to do that? Where's the best places to go?
Yeah, so I'm Nick Miller. Connect with me on LinkedIn. On my LinkedIn, Nick Miller Seed, and then our socials are Seed Brighton at Seed Brighton, or Seed on LinkedIn. So Insta, LinkedIn. I think we have a TikTok, but I think it's primarily used to put up memes and things like that. Our social team are amazing in Seed. They do loads of great stuff. I only know about it because I'm asked to go and do this dance or something every now and then. And you can also listen to our podcast, the Performance Marketing Podcast, on all of the platforms if you like my voice and want to hear me talk more rubbish. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and the podcast is great. I've been listening to it to understand Seed better as we're joining this. There's lots of golden nuggets I've already written down listening there. So thank you very much, Nick, and power and energy to you and the team for the future ahead.
Thank you.